Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of the Sales Entrepreneur Podcast. I am Daniel McComber, and with me today is Rob Molling.
That's right.
Yeah, owner of 1% Fitness. So awesome.
That's the jam.
Thanks for coming on, man. Well, I mean, we've connected through, the coaching group that we're both a part of. And you did this amazing thing a couple months back where just as a free service to all of us in the group, you wanted to do like this transformation program. And that's how I got introduced to you. I mean, I still couldn't believe that you're doing it for free for us. I'm like, this is a service that most people charge quite a lot of money for.
A lot of money.
And so, I mean, the first introduction to you is I sent you a shirtless pic, in a mirror picture. I was like, all right, this is me right here. And the goal was, how much can we transform over like 3-month period, I think it was,
8 weeks.
8-week period. Yeah. And yeah, believe it or not, like I actually made some huge progress during that time. And then since then, I made even more progress thanks to your company, like crazy. I'm down. I'm down. I think it was like I'm down 4 or 5% body fat, and it was always. I've never had a problem going to the gym. It was always my diet. Always. I love sweets. My wife is Eastern European and she makes amazing food, but the food's not always healthy. And it tastes amazing. And everyone who ever has my wife's food could testify to that. But it's not easy to lose weight, or not necessarily lose weight, but like to stay fit with that kind of diet. So I've been having 1% Fitness meals shipped to my house. I think it's been like a month and a half now, and just couldn't be more happy with it. So I'm super happy to have you on. I mean, you've helped me with this transformation. How long has 1% Fitness been around, and kind of where did you start?
So 1%'s been around for about 10 years.
Wow.
It was an accidental creation.
Okay.
I was a personal trainer, and fitness and nutrition have always been key in my life. And one day, one of my training clients saw me eating one of my meals. I was actually in my barber's chair, and he asked me, he's like, will you cook this for me? And I'm going through college and working in a car wash as their detail salesman, right? And immediately I was like, yeah, absolutely. If you'll pay for my food, I'm doing the work anyways. And that was the beginning.
Yeah.
And so I allowed my personal training certifications and those things to lapse and focused my core attention on nutrition.
Wow.
And just made myself the expert in that field.
But you weren't a cook. Did you go to school or anything like that? Cooking background?
Not traditional school.
Yeah.
I was raised in a questionable, a risky childhood.
Okay.
And like I had to cook for my siblings at a young age. And so I learned how to cook, and I discovered that I enjoyed when you find out like love languages.
Yes.
And being able to do stuff for people, I discovered that like I have tons of enjoyment in fulfilling and nurturing people through food.
Wow. So you didn't necessarily have an example of cooking or anything from parents or anything like that. It kind of came from a place of necessity.
Absolutely.
Wow. So, I mean, what was that like? I mean, obviously back then you're not worried about the nutrition or anything. It was more of probably, it sounds like survival.
Yeah. Survival in cheap food, right?
Cheap,
so
yeah.
like Hamburger Helper, the cheaper dishes, just, a lot of people talk about evaporated milk or powdered milk. We were consuming a lot of that.
Yeah.
Food stamps. I'd ride my bike to the grocery store with bags on the side, trying to keep balance and bringing groceries home to the family.
Wow. From what age were you doing that?
Oh, shoot. 11, 12.
11 and 12. You're stepping up. And so, you feed your family, and you're seeing the benefits from that. You're seeing the love language, and you're seeing, I guess it's very fulfilling, being able to take care and nourish. Where I guess that's where you started. What kind of helped you transition to realizing the nutritional side of things, or I guess the fitness side of things?
It took years, because again, in the beginning, it was for necessity, and being in that environment as a child, as you grow up in that environment and see substance abuse and make poor choices, the thing that kind of helped take me away from those addictions was the gym, right? Like being able to get all my energy out and into something productive. I could feel the benefit, right? And so It initially wasn't nutrition because when you're young, it's like you can eat whatever you want,
Yeah,
and
doesn't matter.
there's no negative side effects
Hmm.
except maybe acne or something like that.
Yeah.
But uh, you know when you take away something, the substance, you have to fulfill that time with something else, and often it was exercise. And not I think it probably took till I was around like 25, 28, probably around 28 is when the nutrition kind of was like, okay, you're putting bad things into your body, and like when you're in addiction you really don't care, right?
Mm.
It's
Is that something you went through like during your 20s?
yeah.
Mm.
It took me till about 28 to figure out life and be like, okay, I'm sick of incarceration. I'm sick of having probation officer or the government inside of my life.
Yeah. So I mean, you needed a change, and so you decided, you're going to cling on to fitness, and then through the fitness, and I guess through getting clean, is where you found the nutrition side of things. How fast of a transition was it from, you know, using, or I guess abusing substances to seeing the benefits of going the nutritional route?
I would say less than months, right? Like you have a 90-day window where it's like, so when around 28, I ended up doing a year in jail. And so you go to jail, most people that go in there are massively unhealthy. They've been in addiction for years. And then they start eating all the jail food. Well, that food is really not safe for human consumption. It's like the cheapest and the dirtiest food that they can supply, right?
Wow. Yeah.
And so I finally had my first opportunity to go through rehab at about 28. And um, I spent 3 months inpatient and then went into transitional housing for about 18 months. And weirdly enough, like I was the cook in the house. And if
Wow.
you can imagine an apartment complex with everybody that's sober and is required to do meetings and kind of community inside of that space,
Yeah.
I was the guy that cooked. And
Wow. Did you elect yourself to be in that position, or?
no, like so you have regular jobs and go out and do regular life, but I would come home, I would cook, and as soon as I turned on my oven, neighbors, other people in the groups would come down and knock on the door, and they would know, like hungry cats, they would
Yeah.
know, they could smell it, and they would come
Rob's
down.
cooking something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. And so you take on this role of being a cook, and I'm guessing, what kind of facility did you say it was?
It's like a transitional housing.
Transitional housing. So the people in there, are they good influences? Are they bad influences?
You probably have 10% of the people that end up staying sober, right?
Wow.
A lot of them that are forced through probation or somebody is telling them what to do. And you have the very few that end up maintaining sobriety. In Utah, pharmaceuticals are handed out like candy, right? And so you have
Yeah.
a lot of people that start the substance abuse on pills that are prescribed by doctors at a very young age.
Yeah.
Like that was the first, a lot of people's gateways, marijuana or alcohol. My gateway was pharmaceuticals.
Yeah. And so you have kind of, I guess, negative influences around you then. But even though the people there didn't all have like the best intentions, weren't all best people, you still felt, I guess, the the desire to cook. And you did you find enjoyment from it like you did when you were a child?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. People would come show up at the door and you would just know like, because some of them stay sober and you would just find the ones that were in it for the win, right? Like those would be the people that you would partner up with. And in that phase, their intentions is to stay sober, but they often go back to the substance. One of my first really cool transformations. So I, started college while I was doing that. One of my first really cool transformations that motivated me to continue or to push further into the business was Josh Craig. He's all over our website. He's like my poster child.
Okay.
He was in rehab with me. He lost 100 pounds in 6 months,
Wow.
completely transformed his life. Now, he would typically go back to substance because he was uncomfortable with his weight and his appearance.
Yeah.
Um, he is now the director of that same treatment center I went through, and this is 10, almost 11 years ago,
Yeah.
and he's the director. And
Wow.
so the impact that I've been able to have or contribution to what he's accomplished is very fulfilling because now he helps all these other people change their lives and he's
Yeah.
still sober.
Wow. And so I guess you did you have a hand in helping him lose that weight then?
Definitely.
Yeah.
You can't, like, I couldn't take credit for it
Hmm.
because he has his own free will, right? And the relationship that I created with him and support
Hmm.
was definitely beneficial. And like as much as he needed me, I needed him, right?
Yeah.
Because it was like, okay, I get to help somebody, I get to help change this person.
Yeah.
So
That's amazing. And so you said you went to college. What I guess you were going to college during that time where you were, using drugs?
18, at the age of 18, I got a scholarship for valedictorian because I made up the, 21 credits
Wow.
in a matter of a year in an alternative school. And so I had a short window of time there. And then once I got into rehab, they'll kind of vocational kind of rehab will kind of help you get into school. And so I started at Salt Lake Community College, um, you know, what I would have been 28, 29. And I focused on fitness technician and nutrition.
Wow.
And so that was my first exposure to that specific type of schooling.
That's awesome. So you go into school and so through cooking at that place and then going through school, realizing that you have a knack for cooking and helping people through food and through health. Honestly, that's the biggest thing. You just kind of found this desire,
Yeah.
yeah, to help people through that. And so you said that you're a personal trainer. I guess did you want to try to do personal training and nutrition and try to do both, or was there a time period where you were doing both?
Yeah. Initially, so when this all started, I had a home in Sugar House, and I would have clients come in, do the skin fold calipers, pinch them, and provide them food. And then I'd give them workout plans. So the intention was like a full, whole encompassing thing
Yeah.
to help them transform. And as the volume came on, like my first 6 months, I was cooking out of my house.
Just
And
in your kitchen.
oh, dude, and there was no space. Like my
Oh my
my
goodness.
counter space was maybe 4 feet by 3 feet.
Wow.
And if you've ever been to Sugar House, like the
Yeah,
houses
the houses are
are
small.
tiny.
Yeah.
And so I'd like run the fold up tables in my front room, and
You
it
had one oven doing all of this.
one oven, one fridge, and
Oh
so
wow.
it was crazy.
Yeah.
It's a good thing I had good roommates, and
Oh yeah.
they had the perk and the benefit of me feeding them, and so they're like, "Oh yeah,
True.
it's cool, whatever."
Yeah.
And 2013, I went into my facility in Sandy
Hmm.
and started renting 1 day a week,
Wow.
and then eventually I took the whole entire facility and
Wow.
ended up buying it in 2016.
You bought the whole facility.
Mhm.
Dang, and so you moved all of your operations. Were you still how long were you a one man crew? Because I mean you started just as a one man crew, doing the fitness and the nutrition, and then you get into that space there. When did you realize that you needed help?
I'd say about 6 months into it,
Mm.
and out of my home, I would have a couple friends come over and help me do production, but it was not sustainable. And so when I got into the kitchen, I think it was January of 2013. I had a staff of 4 people that immediately came in and started helping, and it just grew. Uh, Initially, it was like handwritten, like customers' names and their plans, and a limited menu. And then we got into the next space, and it's like, okay, spreadsheets, still no website, um, taking orders by phone. And it just the evolution of business is like, okay, in order to sustain or be able to do the volume that we're shooting to do, um, we got to automate some of it.
Wow. And so I guess rewinding even just a little bit more, when did you realize that you can make a business out of the food aspect?
When I discovered that people just didn't want to do or didn't have the knowledge or the time, they wanted the convenience.
Mm. And so eventually the food and the nutrition side of things took over the fitness side of things. Was that a hard transition? Because you had been doing fitness for so long with people, and then now you're doing this food. Like, it, it probably was a little bit of a daunting idea.
Yeah, I enjoyed it just because it was the one thing, like going to the gym, it's hard, right? Like the first month or 21 days, getting in that routine is difficult. And so I didn't enjoy babysitting people and being like, hey, what are you doing? You got to do this. Um, I wanted to create people that were self sustaining and I could provide information and knowledge and they would take it and run. And so it was kind of in the world of entrepreneur, when you become an entrepreneur, or a 9 to 5er, you're either trading your time for money, or you can automate things and trade a little bit of time for a lot more money.
Right.
And so being able to reach more people and help more people, uh, it was, I don't want to say incentivizing, but it was great.
Yeah. You like the idea because I mean, when you're a fitness trainer, you the time that you put in is the only way that you can make money, right? You spend an hour with a client. The only way that you can make money is if you spend the time with the actual client, right? And the only way that you can increase your income is
Hours.
charge, yeah, more hours or charge more to the clients. And it gets to the point where you can't charge $800 for an hour session, right? And so I guess you, I guess you didn't see any growth or like kind of scalability, or maybe did you not see like the long term solution through that?
No, again, trading your time for a dollar. I had much more reach and I could uh, streamline the production, right? Like within that 4 hour window, I'm now producing for 15 people versus one on one. And so
Right.
when people move to like group exercises or different things like that, but cut their rates,
Mhm.
that's the way to maximize or build larger volume
Mhm.
without spending more time.
Yeah. And you, I'm guessing that that was an attractive idea to you because you wanted to actually help people transform. And, when you get into classes and stuff, you don't have the one on one.
Now you just make them sweat.
Hey, good job. You sweat a bucket today. Go home and nothing's going to change. Right. And that's not what you wanted. So you start the nutritional side of things, and you're going and you're scaling. I guess it sounds like you're kind of like just taking it day by day. Yeah, just learning. Okay, today we're going to try this, and then you're just doing word of mouth at the beginning, right?
Okay.
So at what point did it kind of kick up a notch to the point where you said, you know what, this is something that's going to be long term. It's not going away. And I mean, maybe it's around the same time that you actually purchased that building, but what kind of helped you realize that this is gonna take off?
Oh man. So when it first started, I started with 3 people, right? Um, and they just started telling everybody in their office. And the more momentum that grew. So by the time I left my house, I was at about 30 customers.
Oh,
And
okay.
it was like I would wash the dishes, bring them back, I would deliver. It was interesting. But when we transited and ended up at about 2 to 3 days a week, is when I was like, wow, we've got something like this is a necessity. Like people need this.
Mm,
And there was not a lot of companies. I think there's like 2 to 3 companies nationally that did something similar.
yeah.
And so knowing, okay, this has value, we started to turn it into customer referrals. So
Mm,
our clients would benefit $20 for anybody they referred. And this is back in the beginning of the Facebook days where paid ads just started kicking in, right?
right. Yeah.
And so I spent $500,000 in 5 years of my time building our first website.
Wow.
And would I do it again? No,
No,
no.
probably not.
The website, it blows me away. The website cost me more than the physical brick and mortar building that I still own.
Wow.
And so we ditched that website. It worked really well for us
Mm.
because there was no web technologies that would do reoccurring subscription. And
Oh,
so that 5 years, I didn't have a picture of my food on the website at all. It was
yeah.
just order form. You could select your date, your windows, all that fun stuff.
Hmm.
But we transitioned to a Shopify 2022 and offered pictures of food and
Yeah.
build your own bundles and all these different features. And again, it's very important being able to track your ROAS and your CPA
Hmm.
to be able to identify if what you're paying in ads is profitable, right?
Yeah. Are you just spitting money away, or is it actually bringing in customers? Right?
So there was a large window of time, 5 years, where I was basing my success based on how many people clicked. I couldn't track anything. It didn't work.
Yeah.
And so we did rely heavily on a lot of online sales. Like
Okay.
we've never had a sales team. Uh, you're looking at the main salesperson
Yeah.
for the company wearing multiple different
Owner,
hats. Oh,
sales rep, cook. You were in the kitchen as well at that time too. Yeah. And so what how was I mean when you're wearing all those hats, right? And you're at a point now where you have quite a few employees and you have quite a few orders and you're looking to scale, did you ever have the worry that you were falling into the same problem where, man, we're only getting customers if, I'm doing the sales side of things. Did you have that worry ever?
I still have it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oftentimes I've considered myself the bottleneck, right? Because I'm back doing the web technologies, the financials, and have my hands in everything. And so I learned how to do paid ads really, really well
Mm.
on Facebook, um, Google paid ads. All of those I learned really well. But at that same time, you have to have organic, like organic reach, email content. And so you learn. I worked with Steve Merrill. He's part of the
Oh,
WAT
yeah.
prior and I've worked with him about a year and a half. And before, my organic reach in regards to email campaigns was like an 8% open rate,
Wow.
which is mediocre at best.
Yeah, not too
I
good.
worked with him for 6 months. We changed things. We started being more informational instead of salesy.
Mm.
And my sales or my email campaigns went from an 8% open rate. I think my highest was 76, but right now we sit an
Wow.
average of about 55.
That's still amazing. For every email you send out there, half of them are getting opened.
And we have a database of about 18,000 people. So
Wow.
and the beauty is you can actually look on, on the applications and see, okay, what kind of revenue is generated from this.
Mm.
And so when I open it up, I immediately a big smile comes because you're not paying Zuckerberg or you're not paying the Googles
Yeah.
to manipulate and show it to who they want to show it to.
Yeah. You're going directly to the person, and that's how. So I'm sure when you kind of implemented a lot of those things, that took some of the sales burden off of you, right? And so I guess that's the application of building systems and operations, so that way you're not doing the sales yourself.
Yep,
Yeah.
autonomy, so they can operate even when I'm sleeping. I know, hey, I know this email is going to go out because we build a really good flow,
Mm.
and there's different attributes or behaviors that these customers will have. What plan they're on, what day of the week they're ordered, what their gender is, what their goal was, and we've put them in different segments per se that they'll get different type of content. And initially, it was like I was sending out sales pictures of food, and this is why you should buy our product. And the dynamic shift of saying, hey, let's not sell, let's inform. And the more you can inform these people, the clients, the more likely they're going to be to make that decision on their own.
Mm.
And so it was a hard shift where I was like, oh, sell, sell, sell. So like I need to shove this down their throat
Yeah.
to educate them, inform them, and then give them a little nudge every once in a while where it's like, hey, this is what we do. And if you want to simplify your life, this is what you get. I'm sure you get all the emails.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the funny thing is that you literally did that through that program I talked about at the beginning, where you were teaching us and you jumped on a phone call with me. And I think what really stood out to me was we were talking, and I was like, yeah, I have this problem where my wife and I, we love to snack. I don't know if you remember this conversation, but I was like, we love to snack, and my with my job works, I'll eat every day like 12:30, and then I might be at a sales call or at a sales appointment until late at night, and I never know when I'm going to eat dinner, and it's really messed things up. And so because of that, my wife and I have never been like on a real schedule. And I think a lot of people in the sales world understand what I'm saying. And so we were talking, and you're like, well, here, let me kind of brainstorm with some ideas with you. You weren't even I didn't even know that you owned a nutrition company at that point. You were just talking about me, and I was like, why is this dude doing this for free? I'm like, this guy is so awesome. And I just still couldn't believe that I could tell from the phone call you genuinely cared about me, and we'd never met in person. And, I had this problem that I was trying to fix, and you knew the solution, and you knew that you could help me. And you said, you know what, yeah, let me step in. So we had a great conversation, and you mentioned, yeah, well, if you want, if your wife wants to get tested, then or get her body scan done, then I could take a look at it as well. And I'm like, holy cow, this guy is. And so then I think I even asked you, I'm like, what do you do for your meal prep? Which is hilarious. That's how naive I guess I was. I just didn't know you. But so what do you do for your meal prep? Like, I own a meal prep company. I'm like, no way, let's go. Okay, sweet. Because I had tried it before. And I told you this. I won't say their names, but I've tried a couple other companies out there, and they weren't bad. And usually they tasted pretty good, but one, they were never filling ever. And I'm a relatively bigger guy, and I just needed a lot more food. And two, I knew for a fact the protein content was pretty low compared to what I needed, and it was just really frustrating. And so that's another reason why I kind of gave up on meal prep. I'm like, one, meal prep for a lot of people takes the fun out of cooking, so it's pretty awesome that you're able to find enjoyment in it. And like my wife and I, we tried meal prepping, but my wife is not, she likes cooking a meal fresh for that meal. She doesn't love the idea of putting it in containers for the whole week, right? But she does love the idea of these pre-made meals. They come to the house, and, she cracks them open when she's too busy to cook. Or we have two kids. My son is 1 years old. If she's running around all day long, she doesn't miss lunches anymore. She used to skip lunch because she was so busy, couldn't cook for herself, and I wasn't home. And so now she can just pop one in the microwave, and she's not skipping meals as much. And so this is the kind of impact that you're having on people and their families and our lives. And again, going back to what I was saying before, is that it all started from you showing a genuine interest in helping me in my situation, whether or not I was meal prepping or going to sign up with your company or anything. And so I'm guessing that the fulfillment that you get from being an entrepreneur must stem from, I guess, the testimonials of the people that tell you how these meals are impacting their life.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Did you ever think that you would get so much feedback and so much positive feedback from helping people eat healthy?
Oh, when I first started, because of the transformations that I would help people create, um, the family members, the wives reaching out to me, it blew me away. Like, we had worked with one person that had cancer, and the wife wrote me this really long email, and I don't get emotional too often, right? And it blew me away. I'm just like, oh, it's not me, it's the food. And we're just the vessel to help people get there. And like, we've done a handful of 6 week transformation challenges, giving away $10,000 at the end, five to a male, five to a female. But we having the family members come in, like Mike Braun's one of my favorite ones. Like, I have a handful of favorites, but him, his wife, they've done almost all of our challenges.
Mm.
And like, he's military, he has a personal training background, he knows all the things.
Yeah.
He just wouldn't apply it. And I watched him shed over 75 pounds, and like, I've got really cool morph videos where it's like him before, him after, and they kind of morph together, and it shows him now.
Yeah.
But like, he told me, like, he's like, I coach a kids rugby team, and after the season he showed back up and he was a completely different person. People were like, hey, where's Coach Mike? And like, and then his kids, his family members, like, it was a group thing, right? And
Yeah.
so being able to teach or have that larger impact on the whole entire family,
Mm.
and it trickles down because you teach them that, it's like with your kids, you can tell them a million times what to do, they're not going to listen.
Yeah.
But you show them what you do or how to conduct yourself, and they're just gonna soak it up and be a sponge. um, Brad Lancaster, he's one of the guys in the walk group.
Yeah. Love Brad.
Stud.
Mm.
They did the challenge, and him and his wife came in first 2 weeks. They had great results, high fives all around. And the third week, they brought in their daughter,
Mm.
and it was just really cool to see her light up and be like, oh, 5 pounds, gain some muscle. And it's just like, oh, this is a larger impact than just weight loss. Like, it's a whole entire, I don't want to say movement, but almost a movement or shift in the lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
Initially, the name 1% Fitness, people are like, oh, I want to be the 1%. You got to be the 1%. That's very exclusive. When the company started, it was like, hey, be part of that 1% that cares about their what they eat and what they do. It's like a CDC statistic. Eventually, it evolved to like the dynamic shift of 1% per day. That's how you get to that 1% is just small little shifts or changes in direction. And if we can be that guiding beacon to get people to that spot where they can live their most fulfilled life and have enjoyment in it, like that fills my cup.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love, I mean, Brad, he shared his story on one of the weekly calls that we had, and he was expressing the fact that it actually helped his relationship with his daughter, him and his daughter, that they actually grew closer together because they're doing something together. Like, yeah, you can choose to sit on the couch and eat junk food as a family and bond in that way. And in the back of your mind as a father or as a parent, if you do that, you are bonding in a way, but it's not the healthiest way. It's not a wrong way, but it's not the healthiest way. If you can bond with your kids by eating healthy and have attract like have excitement around that, I mean that's creating a generational habit too. How many people are either overweight or in a bad situation because of generational habits that are passed down? And so I love that through your company, you're changing the dynamics of not only one person's life, but it literally can impact generations to come. And you said really something interesting with the 1%. You're saying that only about 1% of people actually pay attention to their nutritional intake.
So 2013, there's a CDC statistic that said 6% of the population of the United States do enough physical activity to consider themselves physically fit. I've said this a million times, so it's like
Yeah.
clockwork.
It's the first time I've heard that. That's crazy.
So that's an hour and a half, 5 days a week, that much physical activity.
Mm-hmm.
Now, out of that 6%, 1% of the 6% of the population do that combination of physical output
Mm-hmm.
and also focus and have a specified diet or meal plan.
Wow.
And so initially it's like, okay, this is a cool CDC statistic. Like we want everybody to be the 1%, um, because it's going to increase the quality of life, the
Yeah.
duration of life, your relationships, right? Because you'd mentioned like when you bonding on something positive or some change is going to build a stronger bond. Like if you've went out and done like community service or served the community as a family, like we always do Thanksgiving, we go out and feed the homeless, and we have, this year we had like 5 walk guys that came and helped.
Wow.
But you build or bond is in a positive direction or helping somebody else, that bond or the energy around that bond becomes so much stronger versus hanging out on the couch and just watching
Yeah.
whatever's going on. There's a connection,
Mm-hmm.
but there's no growth that
No.
serves that connection.
Yeah. No growth. It's not lasting. Yeah. And so you changed the idea of the 1% now to something else.
Yeah, just that 1% shift on a daily basis and heading in that direction, to have a fulfilled life.
Yeah. And so I guess your company is at the point now where you you can see the fruits of your labor, right? You see that you're impacting people and you're helping people on a bigger scale. As the founder of the company, did you ever think that you get to this point?
No,
No.
no. I had dreams when I would, be in my kitchen at home before I paid like taxes or what do you call that, workman's comp, and all
Yeah.
those different fees that you never realize as an entrepreneur
Yeah.
starting that you're gonna have to pay. I'm like, oh man, if I got a 1,000 customers or 500 customers, I'd make over $1 million a year. And um, you know, I, when I walk into my facility, I have a lot of gratitude because being 12 years old, nobody thought the Robbie, that's what they called me, like my family, my friends.
Yeah.
I didn't have much direction. I didn't have much guidance. I didn't have, uh, you know, a lot of people from high school are like, oh man, I never thought you'd be the person you are today. Um, I thought you would have been dead because by the time I was 23, 21 of my close friends from high school had passed away from overdose or something related to drugs. I also lost my oldest brother to substance with one of my best friends. And so my future didn't look very bright
Yeah.
because of my personal choices. And oftentimes when I walk into my facility, I'm just overloaded with gratitude because there's so many times that I should have died. I put myself in a lot of very risky positions or situations. And so there is a lot of gratitude for what this has provided for me, for my family, and like my contribution back to society. Because as a youth, I wasn't helping society, I wasn't helping people. Um, Now I have the ability to help people and change their lives. And my biggest thing is like, if I can prevent other people from, or children specifically, from going through the same challenges or through the same uh, experiences that I went through and all the grief and stuff like that, like that's what I would like to do.
Yeah. That's a very amazing goal to have. And I guess, like, as an entrepreneur, I tell people all the time, if you're trying to be an entrepreneur out there and your goal is to start a business to make money for the sole purpose of making money, then you might have a business, but eventually people will see through that and you won't have any money. I guess at what point because at the beginning, your idea was pure, right? You wanted to help people. At what point did you realize, okay, I want to help people, and the way I can help people is I have to be able to provide, I have to make a business that does make money that can continue to sustain so I can keep helping more people? Was that a hard lesson to learn?
Um, yeah, kind of. It's because I still have that all the time where it's like, hey, you need to make more money, you need to make more money, and to have a larger reach. Um, you can make a whole lot of money, but it can get spent or you can lose it extremely fast. But that impact that you're going to have with people, that doesn't go away, right? And when you have those clients that are like, hey, this helped me, they are going to become evangelists for your brand and they will naturally help it grow. Like we've worked with a handful of influencers and other brands have offered them sponsorships or partnerships. And because of the authenticity of our company and the purpose and values, they don't lean away from it. They're like, hey, we want
Yeah.
to stick with this brand specifically because they can see the authenticity.
Yeah. So you keep your eye focused on, helping people, the authenticity, and then the rest takes care of itself.
Yeah, there was a transition point where it was like I used to be in the kitchen, then I stepped away from the kitchen, and I really like people. Like I love using my education. Like I probably said on the call with you, I was like, dude, I don't get to use it very often. I'm stuck behind a computer doing work, work, work,
Yeah.
work. And so, I mean, I still go out to events, expos on
Hmm.
purpose. I could have staff go, but like, I love seeing the same faces year after year, and people be like, "Oh, you're not selling food this year? Oh man, I saved my appetite so I could get food from you." Um, and so there is that difficult transition where it's like, hey, there's personal sacrifice of pleasure and enjoyment to help the company grow to be able to service a larger area of people. Because when we first started,
Hmm.
it was in store pickup only.
Yeah.
And then we changed to local home delivery.
Hmm.
And then 2022, we shifted to nationwide shipping.
Which I'm grateful for because I got my meal yesterday in Fort Worth. Yeah, I came home and I ate my last meal on Sunday, and I was like, "Well, I don't know if it's gonna come on Monday or Tuesday, but we'll see." And I came home from doing the gym, and my wife was unpacking it. I'm like, "That's right, let's go!" Not missing my meal. I'm gonna eat healthy today, and so very grateful that you did that. But I really love what you just said there. I think that's very uncommon and unheard of, where you started the business because of a passion that you had, and the business is growing, and you're growing, and you're getting more and more feedback, and you're loving it. But even though the company is successful and it's at a point where it's taking off, you're still making sacrifices. And that's really interesting that you say that you're making sacrifice. Like, you could enjoy your company even more technically. Like, you built this from the ground up. You can get more self-serving enjoyment out of it, is what you're saying. But instead of doing that, you are still focused on helping as many people as you can. And so you sit behind a desk more often than maybe you want to, just so that way you can get more meals and impact more people's lives.
Yeah.
That's really, yeah, I don't think you hear too many founders or CEOs of companies that are willing to sacrifice, the things that they can get enjoyment from to help more and more people. Is that what you think is that been like something that you think has gotten you to the point where you are now?
Yeah, excuse me. It definitely drives, like, just knowing, like you were saying, being able to. I saw somebody out in Bangladesh that one of my friends sent me a picture from Instagram. They're like, "Hey, your shirt's in Bangladesh," and I was like, "Huh?" And they were actually a customer, a customer of mine and a friend saw another person, and they actually met each other. He's like, "Hey, I know that brand," and they were able to chat, and then they ended up at a gym together in Bangladesh, and I was like, that's connection. Like, that's
Wow.
really, really cool. So,
Yeah.
so the reach that it has,
Mhm.
that's exciting. And is a is the beginning entrepreneur. Because I was out, I was personal training people and never behind a desk.
Mhm.
And that transition to be like, okay, this is your new position. You're not in the kitchen. You're behind a desk. It was a hard pill to swallow because
Yeah.
I have massive ADHD and, like, I love moving. And
Yeah.
so putting a hyperactive person into a fixed position, like, you absolutely have to learn
Yeah.
to, like, change the dynamic. And, like, I'll still get up and I have one of these desks where it
Yeah.
raises up, and I'll stand up, I'll walk around. If I have to take a call, I'll pace.
What you're wondering is like, is this what I signed up for?
Yeah.
Like, I signed up to like cook people food and nourish them, and now I'm behind a desk. Well, where do you see the company going? Do you have any like big next projects that you're working on?
We do. We're actually over at SolarCon. I ran into one of the biggest sales gurus in the industry, and thankfully enough, his brand is very focused on fitness and nutrition.
Oh,
He
okay.
has a whole army that's behind him.
Oh, I already know who you're
Yeah,
talking about.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so, like, I started engaging with him 4 or 5 days ago, and, like, when I was meeting with him, he takes a selfie and he's like, "Throw this in your phone." He's like, "I love what you're doing." I had an intimate conversation with his wife for about an hour in an
Wow.
expo, which is extremely weird, and, like, had a couple of tears with her, and it was just
Wow.
authentic, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, "I love what you're doing. I want to make this big." And I
Yeah.
was like, "Okay, cool." And so,
You're talking about the guy that wears his last name on his shirt,
mhm,
right? Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. He's very passionate about, the fitness and everything. And I think sometimes he gets a bad rep for it, but he's very passionate about it. And so I can absolutely see how he could see the value in what you're doing.
Well, and when it comes back to the core, like, self excellence, like creating a better person, whether it's in sales, like, that education that you create for yourself, and the physical fitness, the health. Any salesperson will knows, right, that if you feel better, you look better, more confidence. Confidence in self is going to generate more sales, right? So in that realm where it's like, hey, he's pushing all of his people to be the best that they can because he doesn't settle for less. Well, that's a winning formula. If I mean, even in home, right? If you're motivating your family to be the best that they can, and you're not patting somebody on the back for the participation trophy where it's like, hey, you tried, here, good job.
Mm-hmm.
um, you're not going to get a whole lot out of a person that you're giving a participation trophy to.
Yeah.
But somebody that you actually are like, hey, I'm your friend, I care about you, and so I want you to be the best that you can, and I will call you out if I have to,
Mm-hmm.
just to help you become a better person. um, I admire that.
Yeah. Well, it goes back to look good, feel good, play good. Right. That was a phrase that we always had when I played college sports. So you have that possible connection coming up. Anything else that you're kind of in the works for, or still just trying to focus on getting as much reach as possible?
Well, so my initial business, so I have 1% as my initial business. I
Mhm.
also have a commissary kitchen where I help other entrepreneurs establish their businesses.
Oh,
So I turned my first kitchen in Sandy into a commissary kitchen. I have 6 tenants that sublease the space. They're just getting into business, so they don't know where to source products. They don't know how to, they don't know the paid ads, or they really don't know a whole lot.
yeah.
And so I come in, I not only give them space to do their production, but I also give them guidance. My Lehigh location, I have 36 different brands that sublease 2,500 square feet that's offset in the back
Oh,
that's dedicated for them.
what's the name of the
So,
two?
so the Sandy one is Matter Taz Kitchen.
Okay,
It's named after my son,
nice.
Maddox Taz.
Maddox
And
Test.
then my Lehigh location is called Compass Launch Kitchen.
Sounds good. Wow.
And so we have, I think 33 some odd brands that are in the Lehigh location. I'd say 26 to 27 of them are food trucks.
Wow.
And so the downside is I have a lot of really, really good food, people creating and a lot of these brands are really good, have good product. They just haven't made it to the market yet. And so
Right.
like we actually have a donut brand that is, actually serves out of the side of our facility.
Yeah.
They have their own entrance. And every day when I walk in, it just donuts. And
Yeah.
and the ladies are so kind. They're like, "Do you want a donut?" And I'm just like, "Yes,
Willpower.
yes."
Yeah. You put them on purpose. You need
Yeah.
willpower to start the day, right? Prove to yourself that you can make it through the doors.
But yeah, that's that's a fun project because I get to help them, kind of create their reach, give them coaching or guidance on different avenues. And then when I go to like a farmer's market or a food truck roundup, they feed me for free. And they're like, "Hey, that's my guy." I'm like,
That's amazing. Yeah. You've embedded yourself into the food space of Utah. Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. Well, I guess, what's your website and what's your social media?
www.1percentfit.com is
Okay.
the website. And then I got an old school one, Ricky Bobby underscore 320 is my social. That
Nice.
one's going to be changing soon. My
Well,
wife,
you can change it, you know.
yeah, I know. My wife makes fun of me all the time. She's like,
Yeah.
"You're not that young anymore." And I'm just like,
Ricky Bobby.
"If you're not first, you're last."
There you go. Shout out Ricky Bobby. That's amazing. Well, thank you so much for being on. I mean, I feel like people can learn just so many positive lessons for how you run your business and how you started out and where you started from. So I really appreciate you coming on today.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome.